If you want to look professional with your Google Docs, then you're in the right place. And that's because one tiny mistake can make your boss, teacher, or a client think you don't know what you're doing. So today we'll fix that. By the end of this tutorial, you'll have the confidence to create, format, share, and polish your Google Docs like a pro. We'll break it up into 4 parts. First up is the foundations section. That's what you need to know as an absolute beginner. Next up is research papers, which covers how to write papers for school and the workplace. Next, after that, is Power Moves. That has over 10 tricks in Google Docs to work faster than everyone else. And last is Import and Export, so you can print, publish, and share with Microsoft Word without any hassles. Skip around the chapter headings if you like, but everything builds from start to finish. And one more thing. Most of what I show you is available for free, but I'll call out when you need to pay or you need a workspace or business account. Now, I'm David. If you haven't met me before, I'm working with Kevin to bring you great tutorials, and I've been mastering Google Docs for almost 20 years. Let's start with the foundations.
To create a new document, go over to your browser's address bar and then type in docs.new. Press the Enter key and you're ready to go. Now you can begin your document just by typing, or you can start with one of 40 templates by clicking this Templates button. If you're a student, you might like this Class Notes option. Or if you've got a desk job, you might like this Project Brief template. But one template that applies to just about everybody is the to-do list. Let's stick with this one to explore how Google Docs works. I'll click this template to get a preview, and then click Insert to get into the document. Before we start adding our to-do list, let's take a brief tour of what we're looking at. The document itself lives in this big pane on the right. On the left-hand side, you'll see the navigation pane, and at the top, you'll see 2 to 3 rows of options to select from. We'll spend most of today going through these options. But first, let's name our document by clicking where it says Untitled Document in the top left. It automatically gets renamed to the title of the document, but let's make it one step better by calling it My To-Do List instead of just To-Do List. Then press Enter and you've saved the name. Now, if you come from Microsoft Word, you might wonder how to save your document, but really one of the best parts about Google Docs is that it saves for you as you make changes. So if you want to find this document later, head over to docs.google.com. Below the templates section, you'll see a list of your most recent documents. You can also go to Google Drive at drive.google.com if you want to see and organize all of your Google files. So now you know your saves are taken care of, let's set the foundation for writing a document. Let's start with basic formatting together. So first, you can click anywhere in the document to move your cursor position. Then you just start typing to add text. So I've just added text to the title so it looks really big, but I can also add text down below and it looks smaller, like a paragraph would. Let's now go through some of the most common ways you'll format text. First, to format any text, you'll need to select it by clicking and dragging. To bold text, you can click this giant B in the toolbar. You can italicize it using the italic I, and underline it using the U. And as you can see, you can mix and match these. You can change the color of the text by clicking on the A with the black line under it. Then you choose from 80 default colors, or you can add your own by clicking the plus icon under Custom. Blue is my favorite color, so let's choose this darker one. Notice how this black bar changed to dark blue. In fact, this might be a little hard, so let's change it to a lighter one, and you see the same change. You can also change the background color by clicking this highlighter button. One of the most common selections here is yellow to mimic a real highlighter. There is one other type of format you might use less frequently, and that's called strikethrough. It puts a line through the text like you crossed it out. You can reach it by going to the Format menu, then Text, and then clicking Strikethrough. Before I click it, take notice of some of the other options here like superscript, subscript, and capitalization changes. So if you ever get stuck on formatting, check the Format menu and then Text. Okay, here's the Strikethrough. Now through all those changes, we've made it a bit tough to see, so let's change the text color back to black. That's kind of better. I don't know about you, but I think it looks better without the strike-through and the highlight. We could get rid of those by going back to the existing buttons, but what's more efficient is to use Undo, which you can access in the Edit menu. Clicking undo undoes the last action that you performed. Now, if I had to click undo 4 or 5 times to get back to what I wanted, it'd be a pain. Instead, I'll use the shortcut Control Z. Then I can keep typing Control Z until I get back to my desired state. Next up, we've got this default font of Rubik in this document, which you can see up in the toolbar. If I click this dropdown, I can change the font. There are a ton of fonts to choose from, and you get a nice preview. If for some reason these don't meet your needs, you can always get more fonts by clicking the More Fonts button. And if you're changing the font, you might change the size too. Next to the font name, you'll see a size. You can increase or decrease that size by clicking the plus and minus buttons, or set the size directly by clicking in the text box. The last text format I'll teach you is about text alignment. When you click on this toolbar button, you can change alignment between left, center, right, and justified. Let's center this and conclude this section. Now, if your eyes were wandering during that last part, you might have noticed the styles dropdown on the left side of the font. This allows you to use and save preset styles for each of these conditions. If I choose normal text, it's going to change the selected text back to the way it was when I first typed it. Now, you saw some of those other styles called headings, right? You can set headings in your document and it gives you a few benefits. Let's check it out by turning today into a heading. Instead of selecting it by clicking and dragging, I'm going to double click the word. Then let's go back to the styles dropdown and I'll choose heading 1. Now, it made some weird changes. Let's put a pin in that for just a second. Let me take you over to the navigation pane and click on where it says to-do list. When you add headings to a document, you'll see them pop up here as a hierarchy. What I mean by that is if I added a heading 2, you'd see it pop up under today. This is a great way to make longer documents easier to navigate. And I know what you're thinking, these headings are a bit colorful for including in a paper. But don't worry, because this to-do list template modified these styles to look like this. We'll see later what these styles look like in a new document. I'll undo the heading 2 change using Control Z. And now let's get back to heading 1. It doesn't quite look the way we want. You'll notice that it centered it and added a white background. So let's update the style to get rid of that. Pause the video and see if you can left align the heading and remove the highlight while I give you a couple of seconds. Did you get it? And if you just want to enjoy the show, click the alignment toolbar button to set the left alignment, then click on the highlighter and click on none to remove the highlight. Now, if I go down to this week and try to turn this into heading 1, the same thing is going to happen. To change the heading 1 style, let's click back on today, then go to the styles dropdown and under heading 1, click on Update Heading 1 to match. Notice that changed this week into the exact same format. Now, before we finish here, there's still one more issue. This was the original heading, and now it looks like this. No more indent. To fix that, I'll give you a quick introduction on indenting. First, make sure you can see the ruler by clicking on the View menu and then making sure Show Ruler is checked. This part of the document with the blue triangles is the ruler. To get our indent back, I'll click this triangle on the left side and then drag it to align with the checkboxes. Pretty easy, right? Then I can update heading 1 again, and today now matches. Okay, deep breath. You've just learned a lot about text formatting in Google Docs. We're going to continue with some more advanced stuff in just a second. But first, I want to turn your attention to one of the most popular reasons to use Google Docs. And that is it supports you and your teammates or classmates working on the same doc at the same time. To invite them, you have to click the share button in the top right. Then you type in the email of the person you'd like to invite. Make sure the permissions are correct. At a high level, editors can make changes, commenters can make suggestions through comments, which I'll show you in just a minute, and viewers can only read. Once everything's right, send the invitation, and that person will get a notification in their inbox to join the doc. When they accept the invitation and open the document, you'll see them pop up in the top right. And when they start poking around the document, you can see their edits in real time. Now, sometimes you're working on a document together and you need to discuss a change before making it. That's where comments come in. Let me show you how that works. First, I'm going to get rid of this navigation pane by clicking this arrow. We don't need it for a while. So select the text you want to comment on, then right-click and select Comment. Then add your comment. Pretending here that Ricky's my roommate, so we should probably change this to a house to-do list instead of just mine. When you're ready to send it, click Comment. Ricky will see that comment on his document and he can reply directly. Now there's a couple options from here with comments. I could of course reply to Ricky's response, but I can also add a quick emoji to acknowledge it. This is a good one so you don't have to wait for me to find the thumbs up. And the other thing you can do is tag people using the @ symbol. Once you submit your comment, that will invite that person to the document. It looks like Ricky's actually making this change, so we're not going to wait for this new guy to weigh in. Once a comment is no longer relevant, you can resolve it and remove it from view by clicking the check mark next to the initial commenter. And if for whatever reason you want to see those resolved comments again, or see any new comments you may have missed, click the Show All Comments button in the top toolbar. There are two other ways to collaborate on documents. Comments are good when you need to preserve the history of that conversation, but if that's not so important, you can jump into a chat mode with all the people in the document. Here you can have real-time chat with everyone in the document, and Ricky replies being as cordial as ever. The last way to collaborate is to use suggestion mode. To access it, click this pencil in the toolbar on the far right, and then click on Suggesting. Now in suggestion mode, all of your edits become suggestions, which then an editor can approve. Now obviously I'm an editor, it's my document, so I can click this check mark to approve this suggestion, or I can reject it with this X. The point though is that I want Ricky to make the call, and when he accepts it, I'll see it's changed right in the document. Finally, to get out of suggestion mode, go back to that toolbar button we just looked at and click on Editing. Now, it's important to note that your chats are not saved long term. But let's say with all these changes, you realized you messed something up. And it's not something you can undo, it's actually a change from days ago. Remember, your document is constantly being saved, and that includes every version. So if you want to access that version history, click the history icon in the top right. You'll see just about every change you've ever made to this document. When you click on a version, you'll see exactly what changes were made. So this is the one where Ricky added the plan a vacation item. Now, usually you're poking around these versions to find something that you've missed. So you can always select something, right click and copy, or use Control-C to get that text again. But if you actually need to go back to a version or do something more complex, click on the three dots next to the version name and either click Restore this version to go back to it, or make a copy so that you can do whatever edits or copying you need and go back to your original version. That's it for collaboration. Let's head back to the document so that we can talk about tables. Each of these to-do lists is its own table. It's got 2 rows, which is 1 and 2, and the first row has 2 columns in it. The first is the name, and the second is the date. Let's practice adding a new table together for next month's tasks. So I've just clicked at the end of the document and I'll add a new line with the Enter key so there's some space between this new table and the previous table. To add a table, go to the Insert menu and then click on Table, and then we select how many columns and rows we want. We'll make this a 1 by 2, which is 2 rows and 1 column. Let's type in next month. Now, do you remember how to make it a heading 1? Pause the video while I give you a few seconds to do it yourself. Did you get it? You have to go to the Styles dropdown and then select Heading 1. Now I know it looks like nothing changed, but if we open the navigation pane again, you'll see that next month shows up. Now let's add a background color to this table so it looks like the other ones. When you click anywhere inside of a table, you get a lot of new options in the toolbar. Because I'm zoomed in, I have to click on these 3 dots to see them, but you may not have to. I'll set a background color using the icon with a paint bucket on it. And let's choose this pale orange. I'll also fix the indent just like we did before. And while we're here, let's fix this table to use heading 1 as well. Next steps with this table, let's add some checkboxes. So I've put my cursor in the second cell, and now I'm going to click the checklist icon in the toolbar to get started. Go ahead and add a few things to this list. I'll add clean a garage and anniversary party. Now you probably noticed there's a line spacing problem here, so let me take you through how to fix it. First off, make sure you select all the lines that you want to fix the spacing for. Then click the line spacing option in the toolbar. We're first going to control how much space appears between lines. We're going to select 1.15. This isn't right yet, so we'll go back to the same option and then click Add Space After List Item. That looks slightly better, but the previous tables have space before the list item too. So we'll go back to line spacing options one last time and click Add Space Before List Item. Now it looks like it's supposed to. And if you want to know how I knew those options, it's not because I go around memorizing this for every template. Let me show you the quick trick. Select the lines that you want to see the margins on first, then go back to the line spacing options and click on Custom Spacing. Here are the exact options we just chose. 1.15 for line spacing, space before each line item, and space after each line item. Let's add this date field next. Now you can split any cell by right-clicking in it and then clicking Split Cell. I'll set 2 for columns because we want to split this into 2 columns. Let's add the content first and then worry about this border later. I'll click in this cell so my cursor is flashing. Then to get this special month dropdown, I'll go to Insert and then Dropdown. Here you can create a new dropdown or choose from existing ones. This template comes with this configuration 1 dropdown, which is pre-built to have all the months. So let's select that. Then to fix the alignment, do you remember what we have to do? Go up to the alignment toolbar button and then select right aligned. Well, it's close, but it's not quite right. See, we've got this trailing indent problem here. And just like the last indent problem, I can fix it by moving this triangle to be aligned with the end of the last dropdown. Or so it might seem, because if you look at this line closely, I actually can't get it to line up right aligned with the dropdown before it. Now, there are 2 ways to fix this. There's an easy way and a hard way. The easy way would have been to just copy and paste this table to create a new one if that's what you wanted. I'm going to show you the hard way though, so you have other tools to reference if you need them. The issue is that these 2 cells are not the same widths as these 2 cells. To fix that, we're going to click in this next month cell and then select Table Options from the toolbar. The column width here is almost 3.5 inches, but if we check the last table, you'll see it's 5 inches. Same thing with the month cell. Here it's almost 3.5 again, and in the last table it's 2. So let's fix it up. We'll go back to the next month cell, change the column width to 5 inches, then the date cell, and going to 2 inches. And now you try to change the indent, you can make it line up perfectly. By the way, you might have noticed the same problem on the left side. This heading is not perfectly lined up with the checkboxes. We can also change the indent here to make it perfectly lined up. There are 3 more cosmetic changes we need to make. First up, these rows aren't the same height. Whenever you see something unexpected and you can't seem to find the option for it, check the table options. Here we'll expand the row field and then check the difference between the last table and this table. So that's clear. We need to add a minimum row height of 0.5 inches, and then we'll pin the header row. Something still looks off though, so instead of the row, let's now check on the cell. So the vertical alignment is middle here, and when we click on this cell, it's top. So let's make that change. I suspect for the date, it's the same thing. So that was number 1. Number 2 is we've got to remove this border. Once you click on a border, you get a few new options inside of the toolbar. You can change the color of the border, you can change the border style, and you can also change the border width. The easiest way to remove that border is to change the width to 0. Now, number 3, the last thing we need to do is to change the border on this entire table to match the thickness of this other border. This time I've selected the whole table and I can go to more options and change the border width to 1.5. Now the border in between came back, but we can once again repeat the same steps and zero it out. Nice job making it through this section because tables can be quite tricky. We're going to wrap up this basic building blocks section with 4 more pieces: images, bullet lists, numbered lists, and links. The next month here is actually October instead of January, so I want to add some imagery for it. There are a lot of ways to add images, and perhaps the easiest is to just copy and paste them in. But if you don't have an image handy, this is a good chance to use the Insert Image function. And yes, you can upload from your computer or upload from Google Drive, Google Photos, your webcam, or a raw URL. But for this case, let's try searching the web, yeah? So I'm in the Northern Hemisphere, which means October is in autumn. So I'm going to search for a picture of fall foliage. This goes out to Google Images and gets us some great photos. Once you find one that you like, you can click it, maybe even click multiple, and insert them into your document. If you want to change the size of an image, simply click on it so you get grip handles and then resize it any way you like. You can also crop an image using the option in the toolbar. I'll trim this down so it looks more like a cover image for our October to-do list. Once your crop is ready, click the crop icon again to finalize it. Now, if for whatever reason you don't like the crop, you can always reset it afterward by clicking the Reset Image button that shows up. Let's put the crop back using Ctrl-Z, and now let's talk about bullets and numbers. These are both types of lists, and you've already seen one type of list called the checklist. Bullets are easy to add with the bullet list button, and numbers are easy to add with the numbered list button. Now, my trick for adding these is not to use the icons. It's in fact to just type asterisk, then space for bullets. And it probably wouldn't surprise you to find out that you can do the same thing by typing a number, then period, then space to create a numbered list. Now, with bullet lists, every bullet is the same style until you want to start indenting. You can indent by pressing the Tab key, and you can outdent, as in the opposite of indent, using Shift and Tab. Notice when I went to Tab that the bullet style changed to a hollow circle. This is default behavior, so if you want to change the bullet style, click this drop-down menu next to the bullet list to change what they look like. Now you can change a bullet list to a numbered list and vice versa by selecting the entire list and then clicking the type of list that you want. Now, sometimes you might have a numbered list that's interrupted by an image or even a table. Sometimes you can continue the list order by typing the next number, so 5 in this case, and then period, and then space. That didn't work here, so instead I'm going to restart my numbered list by typing 1 period and space. Then I'll right-click on the 1 and select Continue Previous Numbering. And that worked this time, but if that doesn't work, I'd right-click again and then select Restart Numbering. This way you can choose whatever number you want. Finally, let's talk about links. I want to add donate used clothing to our to-do list. And I found a website that can help. Now I can add that to this table directly by just pasting it in, or a sharper way of doing it is to select this line using a triple click, going to the Insert menu, and then clicking on Link near the bottom. I can paste my link in the text box above, but notice I can link to other documents inside my Google Drive. Then press Enter or click Apply, and the link is saved.
Congratulations, you've just finished the foundation section. Now listen up because you got two options here. If you're a student or professional who has to write research papers, stay tuned. I'm going to cover some tricks like how to make citations, how to check your word count, and how to add page numbers. And if that's not of interest, just jump ahead to the Power Move section. Either way, you're going to learn something. Let's go.
We'll start our new document the same way as last time. So head on over to your browser's address bar and type in docs.new and press enter. We'll click on templates so we're not starting with a blank document. This time scroll down almost all the way to the second to last row until you see the research report template. Click it to preview the template and then click insert. I'll full screen this and hide the navigation pane so we can see the entire document. Now, this paper probably has more pictures and more fluff and more colors than you're used to, but it'll work fine for our needs. So first up, let's talk double spacing. I'm down here under the introduction section, and we've got a great paragraph which isn't double spaced right now. Double spacing is a common requirement, especially in schools, so let me review how we do it. You might remember from the first section that we can use the line spacing button in the toolbar. So to make this paragraph double spaced, click the double menu option. Now keep in mind every paragraph can be changed independently, so select all of the paragraphs that you want to make double spaced before choosing this option. Let's talk tip number 2, spell check and grammar. Google Docs will spell check and grammar check your documents by default. Notice I just misspelled perspective and it was automatically corrected. But even if it weren't corrected, you'd still see this red squiggly line appear under any misspelled word. Grammar mistakes, on the other hand, have blue squiggly lines under them. So if I update this word changed past tense to change present tense and then click away, you can see the blue squiggly appear underneath. And if you want to see all of your possible grammar and spelling issues at once, head over to the Tools menu, go to Spelling and Grammar, and then Spelling and Grammar Check. Here you can cycle through all of the issues using the arrow buttons and choose whether to ignore or to accept all of the suggested changes. Number 3 is checking your word count. It's very common for teachers to assign word count or page count requirements for papers. So to check this in Google Docs, click on Tools, then Word Count. So here on this first line, you'll see the number of words in the document. And if you want a live view, you can check this Display Word Count while typing, and then click OK. The bottom left-hand corner of the screen will update as you type. To check your page count, though, you have to be sure you're in the Pages format. Now, by default, you actually start there, but some templates like this one take you to Pageless format. To go back to Pages, head to the Format menu and then click on Switch to Pages format. And in this mode, the fastest way I've found to check the number of pages you have is to move your mouse over the scroll bar on the right. The 3 of 16 means I'm on page 3 of 16 pages. Now for tip number 4, we're going to scroll back to the first page and stay in Pages view. This one is all about page headers and page footers. A header appears at the top of every page, and in most cases, you can just double-click in this area in order to access it. But some templates like this one kind of get messed up when you try to do that. So I'm going to use the Insert, Headers and Footers, and then Header option instead. Now I'm on the header of page 3 because that's where my cursor was. So let's type something in here and see how this works. So there's my name, and as I said earlier, at the top of every page, this same header exists. But on the first page only, you can check this box that says Different First Page. That allows you to make the first page's header different from all the rest. Now the same rules apply to footers, so let me quickly show you with the Insert menu, then Headers and Footers, Footer. Now a common use of footers is to insert page numbers. To do this, let's uncheck Different First Page because it doesn't matter if it's the first page or not, and then click on where it says Options. Then click Page Numbers. There's a few options you can modify. Yes, we want it in the footer. Yes, we want it to show on the first page. And yes, we want to start at page number 1. Once you've set these to your heart's desire, click Apply. And there you go. You've got your page numbers. Okay, now we are on to tip number 5, citations and bibliographies. For this tip, we're going to go into the navigation pane and expand all of our headings, and then scroll about 3/4 of the way down until we get to the key findings section. Now, there are 2 parts to citations. There's the part which is the citation inside the paragraph, and then there's the bibliography or works cited section near the end of the document. Together, we're going to add a citation for this sentence. So I'll click after that sentence and then go to Tools, Citations. Now notice I can change my preferred citation style. We'll get to that in just a second. First, I've got to add a citation source. First, I have to choose a source type, so I'll use website in this case. I'll leave access by as website because I don't have any other option, and then paste in the URL where I found this information. Now, when you click search, Google Docs goes to that website and tries to extract all the citation details it needs. If it looks good or you need to make a few edits, go ahead and click continue. Otherwise, if it got it totally wrong, you can click cite manually. This looks good to me, so I'll click continue. Here you can make all sorts of updates to the citation source, and when you're ready, click add citation source. And here we've got a handy pop-up which says if we want to add an in-text citation, just click the Cite button. Before you do that though, make sure you select the proper citation style that you need. For the sake of the example, let's use APA, and then click on the Cite button to insert an in-text citation. And the citation pops up where we placed our cursor earlier. Now let's add the second part of this, which is the works cited or the bibliography. I'll scroll all the way to the end of the document to this last page. And then to insert references, as they're called under APA, click the Insert References button. And just like that, the formatting and references are all taken care of for you. Now on to tip number 6, linking within a document. We'll scroll up to the literature review section and then find the bullet points under areas of improvement. In the foundation section, we covered how to link outside of the document. But let's say you wanted to link to this specific bullet point. To do that, select the text you want to link to, then go to the insert menu, scroll all the way down until you see bookmark and click on it. Then go somewhere else in the document, let's say this summary and analysis section. And I want, when someone clicks on the word findings, to link down to that bullet point. Here's how it works. Insert a new link either using the insert menu or hitting Control K on Windows or Command K on Mac. Then instead of pasting a link or selecting something from this list below, click on Headings, Bookmarks, and Tabs. You'll first see a list of headings you can link to, which is very convenient. But if you scroll all the way down, you'll find your bookmarks and other tabs. Click the only bookmark in the document, the one you just created, and the link is created. To test it, first click the link to show the preview window, then click where it says bookmark and you're brought to that bullet point. And last but not least, let's create a table of contents together. I'll scroll back to the beginning of the document by clicking on Executive Summary. Then I'll insert a new line so I have space for my table of contents. Then I'll go to the Insert menu and move my mouse down to the bottom where it says Table of Contents. When you're in paged mode, you get 3 different options here, but if you're in pageless, all you can do is select the Links Table of Contents style. Let me show you what each of these looks like, starting with plain text. This takes all of your headings and lays them out in a hierarchy to show your reader which page each heading appears on. If someone's viewing this document digitally, they can click on any heading to use it as a link. So this style is a simple indent, and if you want to change the style, you can click on these 3 dots and then go to More Options. Here you have some more advanced formatting, but I'll just show you the differences between these 3 different styles. Here's the dotted style. So it's very similar. You just have these dots to lead the eye to the page number. And here's the link style. Obviously, this is the only one that works on pageless because there are no page numbers.
Great job. Now it's time to learn some Google Docs power moves. You might only use a few of these, but the ones you do will save you time and energy over and over again. I'll start with the free ones and then trickle in some of the paid ones. Let's dive in.
We are back in Google Docs. This time I'm going to start a blank document to show you power move number 1, the Format Painter. Follow along with me here. We're going to type 2 paragraphs. One says text 1 and then the other says text 2. I'll bump up the size so you can see them both. That looks perfect. Let's continue by adding a lot of formatting to text 1. I'm talking about bold, underline. Let's also add a custom color. We can indent it. And just for fun, let's add a checkbox to it. Now remember, in the foundation section of this tutorial, we changed the margin of a lot of checkboxes by hand. But if you're trying to copy and paste the format of another piece of text, you've got a better option. Let's say you come in fresh and nothing's selected. Select the format of the text you want to copy. Then click the button that looks like a paint roller. This is the Format Painter button. This copies that format, and then whatever text you select next will have that format applied. Now, there's a couple things you got to watch out for with the Format Painter. Of course, you see I didn't get the checkbox and I didn't get the indent here. That's because when I tried to copy the format, I just copied the format of the text. What I needed to do was copy the format of the paragraph. Usually you can tell if a paragraph is selected if it includes some extra space at the end of the text. I'll click the Format Painter button again, and once I select the next paragraph, I'll get the margin as well as the checkbox. Last tip on this one, I'll undo that and add a few more paragraphs. Normally you can only copy a format once, but if you want to copy it multiple times, double click the paint format icon instead. Then every time you select text or click inside of text, that format will be applied. Notice this button is still pushed down. If you want to stop painting that format, click the button again to cancel. Now's a great time to learn some common keyboard shortcuts. I'll say the Windows version and then show the Mac version on screen. Starting with the classic trio, bold is Control B, italicize is Control I,
and underline is Control U. You should also be familiar with copy, cut, and paste. It's no different in Google Docs. You can use Control C to copy, or use Control X to cut, then use Control V to paste. But one you may not know is Control Shift V, which pastes without any formatting. Another important one is to undo your previous action. You can do that with Control Z. And if you need to redo, you can use Control Y. If you want to go to the next page, beginners just hit enter a bunch of times until they get there. Professionals don't do that. They actually use the Control Enter shortcut to insert a page break. Another one we've seen in this tutorial is to add a new link. For that, I use Control K almost exclusively. And then two others which are critical are Control F to find text. You'll see that brings up a find window in which you can type in anything you want to find in the document. And if you want to do find and replace, use Control H instead. With this dialog, you can search for any text and replace it with any other text that you want. Use replace to replace one at a time, and use replace all to replace all of the text found. An easy thing to miss is that you can move this dialog so you can see which text is about to be replaced. There are a ton of shortcuts you can explore. To browse them, use the shortcut Control / and you'll see a dialog pop up with all sorts of shortcuts. Definitely explore these if you want to speed up how you use Google Docs. And the last shortcut I'll show you is Control A to select all the text in your document. That leads us to power move number 3, voice typing. Now, you might be someone who likes to take notes by dictation. And if that's the case, Google Docs has a solution for you. It's called voice typing, and if this doesn't work for you, make sure you're in Google Chrome because I just had to switch. Head to the Tools menu and select Voice Typing. Then start talking once you click the microphone button. For example, she sells seashells by the seashore, period. You can also add punctuation by saying it, ! Really? ? New paragraph? Yes. Period. New line. Really. Some of the capitalization might not come out perfectly, but it's nothing a little AI can't fix up for you. Now let's check out power move number 4, markdown support. If you use Notion or you're a software engineer, you probably know how to use markdown. You might be surprised to know that you can use it inside of Google Docs. To do so, go to Tools, Preferences at the bottom, and then check Enable Markdown and click OK. Now you can type in Markdown syntax. For example, you can add asterisks on either side of a word to italicize it, double asterisks to bold it, and you can use pound signs for headings. If you want to learn more about this syntax, check out a Markdown specific tutorial. We won't get too into the weeds here. But 2 more things to take note of if you like Markdown. Number 1, you can select text, right-click, and say Copy as Markdown. Then you can paste that into any file. I'm using Notepad here to view the Markdown syntax. Similarly, you can also copy Markdown syntax. Go back to your document, then make sure you're pasting as normal text so the formatting doesn't get screwed up. Then right-click and select Paste from Markdown. So the Markdown gets rendered as Google Docs formatting. Now let me pull that document up again so you can compare side by side. Let's move on and talk about multiple tabs. We've talked about headings a lot in this tutorial, but not yet about multiple tabs. Click the plus button next to the document tabs label to add a new tab to your document. It's like having separate documents within the same document. Here are some examples of when you might use this. You could have a journal where every tab represents a different day, or you could use it for a recurring meeting where every tab represents meeting notes for a different day. And instead of keeping them at the default tab 1, tab 2, tab 3, you can name your tabs by clicking on the 3 dots and then clicking rename. And don't miss out on assigning an emoji. You can even put a tab underneath another tab just by clicking and dragging. If you're coming from a Microsoft OneNote background, this has a very similar feel. This leads us to the last free power move, which is document translation. I asked Google Gemini to create a 200-word story about donuts, which I'm pasting in here, but you can use any text for this example.
To translate this document into a different language, go to the Tools menu and then select Translate Document. I'll choose Spanish as the target language and give it a few seconds and let's see what it comes up with. And you'll see the new document has all tabs translated into the target language. Now, if you only want to translate a paragraph or two, stay tuned because there's a different path you have to take. I've just moved over to a paid account to show you the next power move, which is using Google Gemini to help you write. In this document, I have two new options available, Help Me Write and Generate Document. Let's click on Generate Document to start. Instead of starting from a template, I can just describe what I want and Gemini gets to work. My best tip for getting the kind of document you want is to be as specific as possible about what you want. That might mean putting an entire outline together because I tell you what, nothing's worse than using AI to create something and you either get the wrong stuff or stuff is missing. I'm keeping mine simple here. I just want a short story and I have a couple of details about the plot. Let's click create and after a few seconds, we'll see exactly what is generated. Now here's our story. It's got a sweet cover image up top and it fills a couple of pages. I did promise you though that we could translate part of this document into a different language. So here's how we do that. We'll select the text you want to translate, then click on the refine button that pops up. You can now use AI to change any part of this. So I can say rewrite it in Spanish. And in a second or two, you have a translation. You can choose to insert it so it adds on to the existing document, or you can click this arrow to replace the existing text. Looks like at the time of filming, there's some issue with these extra capital A's, but usually with the pace of AI, these will be fixed by the time you watch. That's a brief look at generating text, but what about this image that showed up at the top of the screen? Can we somehow generate our own? And the answer is yes, and it is a paid feature, so keep that in mind. To make it happen, go to the Insert menu, then go to Image, and then Generate an Image. There's two things you have to do, and the third is optional. The first and most important is to describe your idea. Here's what I want. I want a scene of two donuts meeting each other right out of the fryer. I've added more details to get it to match the story. Then the second thing is let's make this a landscape photo, a wide photo, and optionally I can choose a style. I'll stick with no style and click create. Now this is using Google's latest models to create this image. This model came out about a couple of weeks ago actually, so I'm expecting great things. You can choose from 4 different options and put them straight into your document. If none of the options work, then update your prompt and try again. I think this one looks pretty good, even though it looks more like a donut hole. Okay, enough donut talk. Let's move on to the last 3 power moves. I've just used Google Gemini to create this contract for a park playground construction project. In these documents, you often have a lot of name placeholders like contractor name or park name. If there's a schedule in the document, you might also have references to dates and specific people that tasks are assigned to. So to make those a little easier to manage, Google has introduced this idea of smart chips. It's easier to show than tell, so let's go up to the Insert menu and then go to Smart Chips and click on Date. Now instead of filling in date 1 by hand, I've got a calendar and optional time picker. And if the date changes, I just move my mouse over it again, click on the date, and I get the date picker once again. You can also use a shorthand for these using the @ symbol and then typing in today. That would reference today's date. You can also use @yesterday, @tomorrow, or even type in a custom date. Now, smart chips aren't limited to just dates. You may have seen quite a few others in this dropdown. If you're on the free version of Google Docs or the starter version of Google Workspace, you'll only see date, people, file, calendar event, and place. So if I clicked on people, I could reference one of my contacts. You'll also see that this triggers a shortcut to share the document with that person. Now, one of the best ways to use this is to reference other files. So if you had another document for this planning and design approval phase, you could reference it by pressing the @ symbol and then typing the name of the document, then pressing enter. Now, all of those smart chips are free, so let me show you some of the ones you only get in a standard Google Workspace subscription. You can access any of these from the Insert menu, but for time, we're just going to use the @ symbol.
So first up is @stopwatch. This adds a stopwatch to your document. You might do this when you're timing something you want to read out loud. Next up is @timer. You can select from pre-built timers or make your own. This can be useful for classroom or group exercises that have a time limit. Next up is voting with @vote. Select an emoji and then ask your team to provide feedback. I like combining these with multiple chips with different emojis so you can get the full range of how your team feels. But be careful because the votes are not anonymous. The last chip we'll cover is called the variable smart chip. This is useful when you have these placeholders which appear through a document, like park name. We can replace that with a custom name by typing @variable. This asks us to create a variable name, and we'll call it park name. We can now replace the next instance of this park name with the variable by typing @variable again. This time we'll use the park name variable instead of creating a new one. Then if I change the variable in one location, it'll show up in all the others. Now you understand smart chips, let's talk about its older brother, building blocks. Building blocks are useful for jumpstarting meeting notes, task tracking, and so on. Basically tools that are common for communication and project management. You can access these building blocks by going to the Insert menu, clicking Building Blocks, and then clicking View More. When you move your mouse over any building block, you'll see a preview appear in the left pane. Here's an example of meeting notes. It asks you which meeting on your calendar you want to take notes for, and when you select that meeting, it generates a template for you to take notes. Now, the building blocks you see will depend on your subscription, so you may not see the exact ones that I have. One of the more useful building blocks is the AI summary. This is only available if you have a Google One subscription or a standard Google Workspace subscription. I can accept the current summary, and anytime the document updates, I can just click the refresh button. And if you have a standard Google Workspace subscription, you can even create custom building blocks by selecting a section, right-clicking, and going to Save as Custom Building Block. Just add a name and an optional description to create your building block. And once it's created, just use the @ symbol and the name of the building block you just chose, press Enter, and it's inserted into your document. Let's finish up all these power moves with e-signatures. It wasn't so long ago that if you wanted an electronic document signature, you had to do it with a third-party product like DocuSign. But now Google Docs has this feature built in for standard Google Workspace accounts. You set it up by going to the Tools menu and then clicking on e-signature. This adds the e-signature pane on the right-hand side so you can add fillable signature fields for each signer. That was a mouthful, so let's break this down. We've got 2 signers here, one for the city and one for the contractor. That means we need 2 signers to insert fields for. So I can click on Manage Signers and add a second one. Let's call the first one the city, and we'll call the second one the contractor. I'll save this, and now I have 2 sets of fields to fill out. Let's start with the cities. Instead of using the signature line, let's just insert the signature field. Then let's add a new line and the name, and then for title, we'll use this text field. And then for the last line, we'll add the date and insert the date signed. Now the person signing needs to know what to put in this text field, so you can click on it and then add placeholder text. I'll put title in parentheses so they know. That now fully replaces the static text that existed there originally, so I can delete that. And now I can start doing the same thing for the contractor. With all the fields in place, I can now click the Request e-signature button. I can fill in the email address of each of the signatories, and each one of them will get an e-signature request in their inbox that looks like this. Opening the document shows a PDF version, including a summary from Gemini on the right-hand side. When the person is ready to sign, they can click the Sign button in the top right of the screen. Then they can fill out all the fields. Google Docs will guide them through the process of creating a signature. Just needs your name and your initials. And once they're done, it's easy enough to add their name and their title. Clicking the Mark Complete button finishes the signature process, and once everyone has signed, everyone involved gets an email with the signed document attached, which includes an audit trail of all signature activity on the document. We'll finish up this tutorial with the major ways you can import, export, and print your documents. Let's start with printing. Now, first off, make sure you're in the paged view by going to the Format menu and clicking Switch to Pages format if you see it. Cover images are a pageless only feature, so we'll click Switch to Pages.
Okay, this is the format that I'm sure is familiar to most of you. Now, what's really important for printing is controlling the visual layout. You can do this by clicking on File and going to Page Setup. This allows you to control the orientation, the paper size, and the margins, which for 95% of you will be the only things that you need. Then when you're ready to print, just go to File, Print. Now, instead of printing or sharing documents, did you know you could also share a document publicly on the web for free? It's a very simple process. All you have to do is go to the File menu, go to Share, and then click Publish to Web. Click the Publish button and you get a dedicated link for your document. And here's what it looks like. It's not the prettiest representation of the document, but it can work in a pinch. And as a bonus feature, take note that it updates itself automatically every 5 minutes. And for the final part of this tutorial, let's confront the case where you're working with someone in Microsoft Word. Did you know that you can import that Word document, make your edits in Google Docs, and then export the document back to Word? Here's how that works. Go to the File menu, then go to Open, and then click on the far right tab which says Upload. I'll upload a file from my computer by dragging and dropping it onto the giant cloud icon. Takes about a second to upload, and now I see the document here. Now let's make some suggestions here. I'm going to select this piece of text and then right click and add a comment. I'll make this a real comment, like specify how long this will be stored. I'll submit the comment, and then let's go into suggestion mode. Now, if this doesn't look familiar to you, you might want to review the share portion of the foundations part of this tutorial. I'll make this change from 18 to 21, both in the text and in the number. That should be enough changes. Now, to get this out of Google Docs and back into Word, go to the File menu and then go to Download, then Microsoft Word. After the download finishes, open the document, and you'll see that the comment is preserved as well as the suggested changes.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you followed along, then you know more about Google Docs than most people, including the tricks of formatting, tables, citations, Google Gemini, voice typing, translations, compatibility with Microsoft Word, the list goes on and on. Leave a comment on what Google app you want to see me cover next. I'm David, and I'll see you in the next video.